Hey YouTube, just wanted to make a little video here on the different cards of the game. I noticed that there really isn't much in the way of introductory stuff on YouTube. There's a lot of tactics, tips, and tricks, but there isn't really a whole lot for the beginner that's really interested. So I thought I'd just get into that. All in all, there's about 20 or so different types of monsters. I'm going to go from monster to spell to trap. And I'm not going to get into all the different kinds of monsters. Obviously, I won't have time to do that in a YouTube video. But I wanted to show you all some of the different things. For example, there's a difference in a lot of the monsters here. You can see this one right here is a normal monster because all you see around it, there's no real different shade besides yellow with the normal monsters. All they have written down here is a description, and that's all they'll really have besides a picture. Now, like these guys here, they're effect monsters. These guys can have really cool effects, and depending on how you use them, they can turn the tide of a fight really good. The blue colored ones, this guy, he's a special one, but primarily if they're blue, they're going to be a ritual monster, like these guys. Ignore the black one for right now. But the blue ones here are, like I said, ritual monsters, and they require a spell card to get out, a certain spell card. Like, for example, the Masked Beast here. He requires Curse of the Masked Beast. Pretty self-explanatory. Now, the purple one here, he's a fusion monster. And basically this guy requires a spell card by the name of Polymerization. I think I have it in here. No, I do not. But he requires a spell card by the name of Polymerization to get out, most of the time. There are certain cards, certain fusion monsters that will allow you to get them out without polymerization, like the Gladiator Beasts. That's contact fusion. Basically, all you have to do is have them on the field at the same time. That's all you got to do. But these guys right here, they can really kick some tail. These guys are synchro monsters. You're going to need a tuner monster for those. And I think they're in the back. Yep, they are. And these two here are tuner monsters. Tuner monsters are like a radio. You got to adjust the radio to the frequency you want to get the station you want, right? Well, you got to take a tuner monster along with a monster that's not a tuner monster, like these two. And you see how their levels? This one here is a level 3. And this one here is a level 4. If you were to have these two on the field at the same time, you'd be able to send them to the graveyard to get out a level 7 synchro monster, because 3 plus 4 equals 7. Pretty basic. These guys right here are your bread and butter, at least a lot of what people use nowadays. Back to the black guy. This fella, he is called an Xyz monster. Yes, it is Xyz, not exceed. A lot of people say exceed, but it's actually Xyz. That's a common misconception. They're like the Magic the Gathering in that they're black. And what the Xyz monsters do is, you see this guy's a level 3. It takes two level 3 monsters on the field at the same time to get this guy out, at which point they become attached to him like a union monster, and you can take those two that are attached to him and you can send them to the graveyard to give them some pretty cool effects. Now, since I mentioned union monsters, I'll hit them next. That's right. These two are union monsters. This is Burning Beast, this is Freezing Beast. These two, you can equip one monster to the other, and the monster that is equipped with the other monster either gains effects, or attack, power, or defense power, or all three, but they can have some pretty cool effects too. Let's see, what else have I not covered? You have your subtypes besides your tuners and your union. You have your Gemini monsters, which is basically you gotta summon them twice. Once they're on the field, they're treated like a normal monster. Once they're off the field, well, you gotta summon them again, pretty much. For monsters that have 5 or more stars, like this one here is a level 4. In order to normal summon a monster with 5 stars or more, you usually have to give up a monster. Well, with Geminis, you only have to do that one time, and that's only to get them onto the field. The second time, when you summon them again, that's when they gain their effects. They're called Geminis because they switch from effect to non-effect to effect to non-effect. It's, you know, it's strange playing with these guys, and I know I didn't explain that really very clearly, but, you know, they're just strange all in all. But if you can get a deck together with a lot of these guys working, they usually do pretty well. This guy, Yamada Dragon, he's a spirit monster. They are unique in that when they're on the field, at the end of the turn, they go, no, unless you have certain cards that stop it from happening, they go back to the owner's hand. That's pretty cool, sometimes. Other times, like in the case of this guy, he's got 2,600 attack and 3,100 defense. He's a pretty mean monster. I want to keep him on the field. I don't know about you, but most of the time I want to keep him on the field. And then you have tunes. These guys are different from tuners in that they came along first, and that they're like a cartoon version of the monster. So tuners are older and they're more established, but by and large they've faded out of the game entirely. One really cool thing about them, though, is unless your opponent has a toon monster, like this one here is Blue Eyes Toon Dragon. If they had any toon monster on their side of the field at all, you'd have to attack the toon monster. But if they don't, they can hit your opponent's life points directly. And this bad boy can do 3,000 points of damage. So imagine being able to hit your 3,000 no matter how many monsters your opponent's got on the field. That's pretty cool. Alright, I've covered all the monsters, and now we're going to move on to spells. Spells come in a few different types. You got your normal, you got your quick play, you have, this here's quick play. This here's ritual spell, and remember what I said earlier, they get out some of these bad boys. You have your equip, continuous, and you have field spell. Now you get to the normal ones. These guys usually are a one-time use, and they go to the graveyard. So their effect happens one time and one time only, unless it says so otherwise on the card. Let's see. The equip, ritual, spells, I've already went over. The quick plays, this one here is your bread and butter quick play, Mystical Space Typhoon. It's pretty cool. But now, I mean, originally these things could be played from the hand and the field. They were very much the utility. They're like a toolbox almost, is the best way to describe it. They have now become more like traps, and I'll get into traps. But if you want to use them, they've actually got to be face down on the field, and that kind of sucks, at least in my opinion. But hey, that's my opinion. Take it for what it is. This here's the equip spell card. Now these guys give really cool effects to the monsters that it's equipped to, and it can only be equipped to monsters. You can't equip spell card to a spell or a trap. There's no card in existence that I know of that does that. But this guy, I'll take this one, Mage Power. Use him for an example. You equip this to a monster, and for every spell and trap card you have on the field, the monster gains 500 attack and defense. that can, if you were to have, say, like Saggy the Dark Clown versus a Blue Eyes White Dragon, you've got a monster with 900 attack and a monster with 3,000 attack. You equip the Saggy the Dark Clown with this thing, you could blow that Blue Eyes out of the water. Heart of the Underdog, continuous spell card, one of the most underrated spell cards in my opinion, but hey, once again, my opinion. Continuous spells are different in that they stay on the field until they're destroyed. Their effect can either be continuous or it can be activated. Either or, depending on the spell card. My favorites. Field spells. These things can seriously boost your game. I know that a lot of people feel that they just take up a card space in your deck, they slow it down, etc., etc. But used properly, these guys can do wonders. They change the entire field that your monsters are playing on. They can boost certain monsters. They can make other monsters weaker. I mean, it's crazy what these things can do sometimes. Now, lastly, getting into my traps. You have your normal traps. You have your continuous traps. This one's a little bit different because this one's a trap monster. Basically, it's a trap that when it's activated, it's summoned into the position of a monster. Well, special summoned into the position of a monster. And they can take your opponent by surprise if they're used correctly. Another continuous trap. This here is a trap monster. And one more trap monster. Here, well, I'm sorry, go to this one. This one here is also a continuous trap. This one is a counter trap. Basically, counter traps are meant to counter basically whatever like this one, for example. You have a light or dark monster, light or dark attribute monster. The attribute of a monster can be found up here. I know it's not too clear, but this one here is dark. Say if I was to try to summon this guy, and my opponent had this trap on the field, but I didn't know he had this trap. So I get him out, and my opponent springs this trap. Well, based on this card, what the card says is pay 2,000 life points. Negate the summon of a light or dark monster and remove it from play. Well, that basically means he doesn't even make it to the field, and I can't use him for the rest of the duel. Yeah, that would suck. So that would explain the gist of counter traps. They counter other traps, they counter spells, they negate things, destroy things. Basically, they're the nastiest kind of trap card that you can find. And that would pretty much be it, actually. If y'all have anything you'd like to add, or you'd like to take a look or see if I'm trading, whatever, what else, just, if you have any questions, give me a comment, leave me a video comment if you want, don't matter. But I guess I will see you later, YouTube.